Have you ever wondered why you keep repeating the same mistakes even when you promise yourself you won't? Like burning yourself out, sabotaging your relationships, quitting too soon, or reacting with way more emotion than a situation really calls for. Yeah, I've been there too. And if you're honest, you probably have as well. It's funny, isn't it? We're often quick to spot red flags in other people, that toxic friend who drains us, that boss who never respects boundaries, that partner who doesn't communicate. We talk about watching for signs so we can protect ourselves from unhealthy people or environments. But what if the red flags we really need to notice are inside ourselves? Let me ask you this. Have you ever found yourself procrastinating because you wanted something to be perfect? Or have you caught yourself constantly trying to please everyone around you, thinking it's kindness, but deep down, it's fear of disappointing people? Maybe you've told yourself you're just relaxing when you're really avoiding the things you know you need to face. These are what I call hidden patterns of self-sabotage. They're sneaky and often they're operating quietly in the background, shaping your choices without you even realizing it. Procrastination can disguise itself as perfectionism. People-pleasing can disguise itself as kindness. Avoidance can disguise itself as relaxation. And here's the thing, noticing these red flags inside yourself isn't about beating yourself up or judging yourself for not having it all together. It's about developing the kind of self-awareness that actually allows you to grow, to evolve, and to live with intention instead of letting old patterns run your life. Because when you can spot these red flags early, you give yourself the power to make small course corrections before things spiral out of control. You get to shift your story before it becomes another chapter of regret. I remember a time when I used to take on way too many projects because I was afraid of saying no. I told myself it was because I wanted to help, that I was being a good person, a team player. But in reality, I was terrified of disappointing others. It led me to burnout, resentment, and missing out on opportunities that truly mattered to me because I was stretched so thin. The moment I recognized that my kindness was often fear in disguise, everything changed. I started practicing saying no with respect and clarity, and I began to feel lighter, more present, and more in control of my life. So I want you to take a moment today and reflect, where might you be carrying hidden red flags within yourself? Where is your perfectionism keeping you stuck? Where is your kindness actually fear? Where is your relaxation actually avoidance? Remember, seeing these patterns doesn't make you weak. It makes you wise. It makes you courageous. And it allows you to break free from cycles that no longer serve you so you can build a life that truly does. Because at the end of the day, self-awareness isn't a one-time achievement. It's a lifelong practice, a daily choice to look inward with honesty and compassion. And the real question we need to ask ourselves is this: what do I need to see about myself today so I can become a better version of myself tomorrow? Have you ever found yourself feeling frustrated again and again, even over small things? Like you're always anxious before a deadline, or you get irritated when a friend cancels plans, or maybe you feel like a complete failure after receiving critical feedback at work. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. I want to let you in on something most people don't realize. Your emotions are not the problem. They are data. They are clues. Most of us grow up thinking that emotions like anxiety, anger, or sadness are issues to fix, hide, or avoid. We think if I could just stop feeling this way, everything would be fine. But what if instead of pushing these feelings away, we could use them as signals, guiding us to understand ourselves better? Let's break this down. Your emotions are clues, not problems. Think about the last time you felt overwhelmed before a deadline. Was it really about the task itself? Or was it about the fear of not being perfect, of letting others down, or of failing? When you get irritated with a friend who cancels, is it about that moment? Or is it touching something deeper, like feeling unimportant or abandoned? When you feel like a failure after someone criticizes your work, is it really about that feedback, or does it hit an old wound about your worth? These repeated emotional patterns are like blinking lights on your dashboard. They're telling you something needs your attention under the hood. My story, the Sunday anxiety. I remember a period when every Sunday evening I would feel this tightness in my chest, a quiet panic that would follow me into Monday. I blamed it on Monday blues or just hating Mondays. But when I paused and started tracking this feeling, I realized it wasn't really about Mondays at all. It was about me overcommitting every single week, afraid to say no, afraid of disappointing others, and setting myself up for burnout before the week even began. That pattern of anxiety was not the enemy. It was a signal trying to help me see what needed to change. How to start tracking your emotional patterns. Here's a simple, practical exercise that can truly change how you relate to yourself. Step 1. Keep a 7-day mood. Journal for the next week. Keep a small notebook or a notes app on your phone with you. Every time you feel triggered, angry, anxious, frustrated, drained, or sad, pause for a moment and jot down what emotion you're feeling. What happened just before you felt it? Any thoughts that came up? Step 2. Look for patterns. After 7 days, review your notes. You will begin to notice patterns you might have missed before. For example, you feel overwhelmed every time you accept an extra project at work, even when you're already at capacity. You feel anxious every time someone doesn't text back, immediately connecting to a fear of being ignored. You feel frustrated when plans change because you equate stability with safety. These are not just random feelings, they are maps to your hidden needs and fears. Reflection, questions to go deeper. When you identify these patterns, ask yourself, what story am I telling myself about this situation? Is this feeling familiar? When else have I felt this way? What need might be underneath this feeling? What would I say to a friend who felt this way? These questions help you shift from judging your emotions to learning from them. Why this matters. When you learn to see emotions as data, you reclaim your power. Instead of your emotions controlling your reactions, you begin to use them to guide conscious choices. Imagine this. Instead of spiraling into anxiety before a deadline, you recognize that your anxiety is tied to perfectionism. You can then remind yourself that done is better than perfect and focus on finishing the task rather than obsessing over every detail. Instead of stewing in frustration with a friend, you can recognize that it's about your need for reliability, and you can have a clear, kind conversation instead of letting resentment build. Instead of shutting down when receiving feedback, you can see that it's triggering an old fear of inadequacy, and remind yourself that feedback is about growth, not a statement of your worth. This is how tracking emotional patterns transforms your life. A thought. Experiment for you. Take a moment and think. What emotion shows up repeatedly in your life that you wish you could get rid of? What if, instead of pushing it away, you became curious about it? What might it be trying to teach you about your needs, your boundaries, or your hidden fears? My personal shift. I used to think that my anxiety was something I needed to fix to be happy. But when I started tracking it, I realized it was a teacher, not a curse. It taught me about the places in my life where I was living out of alignment with my values, where I was saying yes when I wanted to say no, where I was trying to prove my worth instead of knowing it. Learning to track my emotional patterns didn't eliminate uncomfortable feelings, but it helped me stop being afraid of them. It helped me use them to grow. Your next step. If you want to grow, evolve and live with more intention, start here. Keep a 7-day mood journal. Look for repeating patterns. Ask yourself what these feelings are trying to teach you. Use this insight to make small shifts in your choices. Remember, self-awareness is not a one-time achievement. It's a lifelong practice. The more you learn to track and listen to your emotional patterns, the more you will understand yourself, and the less you will sabotage yourself unconsciously, because you deserve to live a life that isn't driven by hidden fears and automatic reactions, but by conscious choices rooted in clarity and self-respect. A final question to reflect on. Ask yourself today, what is one recurring feeling in my life, and what might it be trying to teach me if I finally listen? Write it down. Let it guide you. This is how you step out of old cycles and step into the life you are truly meant to live. Have you ever paid attention to that constant voice in your head? You know the one I'm talking about. The voice that narrates your day, judges your actions, and whispers to you when you're alone with your thoughts. For some of us, that voice can be encouraging, reminding us to keep going when things get tough. But for many of us, it becomes a harsh critic, always ready to tear us down, especially when we need support the most. Let me ask you, what's the story your inner voice tells you when things don't go as planned? Is it something like, I'm not good enough? I always mess things up. Why even try? I'll fail anyway. I'm just lazy. If these phrases sound familiar, I want you to know you're not alone and you're not broken. But these words are powerful, and they shape your reality more than you think. Your inner voice shapes your life. We often think our thoughts are harmless, that they're just private whispers no one else can hear, so they don't matter. But the truth is, your self-talk is like a script you're running in the background of your life, influencing every decision, every risk you take, every opportunity you allow yourself to pursue. Think about it. If you constantly tell yourself, I'm not good enough, how likely are you to go after that job you really want? If your mind keeps saying, I always mess up, how will you ever feel confident enough to try something new? If your internal voice repeats, I'm just lazy, how will you ever give yourself a fair chance to grow? These phrases aren't just words. They become self-fulfilling prophecies. You act in alignment with what you believe, even if those beliefs are false. My personal story. The self-talk trap. There was a period in my life when I was deeply stuck in negative self-talk. Whenever I made a small mistake at work, I would immediately think, see, you're not good enough for this. You're going to fail. If I missed a workout or ate something unhealthy, I would hear, you're so lazy. You'll never change. This wasn't just making me feel bad in the moment. It was draining my energy, eroding my confidence, and stopping me from making the choices I needed to move forward. It made me hesitate, overthink, and avoid taking action out of fear that I would fail. I wish someone had told me back then that my inner voice wasn't telling the truth. It was just telling the story I had learned to tell myself. The power of awareness. Here's the good news. You can change your self-talk. But the first step is awareness. You can't change a story you don't even realize you're telling yourself. Imagine if a friend came to you and said, "I'm not good enough. I always fail. I'm just lazy." Would you agree with them? Or would you remind them of their strengths, their efforts, and the progress they've made? You deserve to give yourself the same compassion. Practical exercise: rewrite your inner narrative. Here's a practical exercise to help you begin shifting your self-talk. Step 1. Write down 5 negative things you tell yourself. The next time you feel defeated, disappointed, or frustrated, pause and write down exactly what you're telling yourself in that moment. Don't filter it. Let it all out. For example, "I always ruin everything. No one really cares about me. I'm so behind in life. I'm not smart enough. I'll never succeed." Step 2. Circle the harsh, absolute, or untrue statements. Look at what you've written. Circle the statements that sound harsh, overly absolute, always never, or that you know, deep down, are not the full truth. These are your inner red flags, patterns of self-sabotage that are holding you back. Step 3. Replace with neutral or compassionate statements. Now rewrite these statements into something neutral or compassionate, like you would say to a dear friend. For example, "I always ruin everything. This didn't go as planned, but I can learn from it. I'm so behind in life. Everyone has their own timeline, and I'm allowed to move at my own pace. I'll never succeed. Success takes time and effort, and I can take small steps forward." It's why this matters. Changing your self-talk isn't about lying to yourself or pretending everything is perfect. It's about giving yourself a fair, balanced perspective so you can take action from a place of clarity and hope instead of fear and shame. Your inner narrative influences the risks you're willing to take, the boundaries you set in relationships, how you handle failure and setbacks, your ability to celebrate your wins. When you replace harsh self-talk with compassionate truth, you empower yourself to move forward instead of staying stuck. A moment of reflection. I want you to take a deep breath right now and think about this. What is one phrase you often tell yourself that might be harming you more than helping you? Is it "I'm not good enough"? Is it "I'm too late"? Is it "I always mess up"? Write it down. Then ask yourself, is this absolutely true? Would I say this to someone I care about? What might be a more supportive way to say this? What if you change the story? Imagine waking up tomorrow and replacing "I'm not good enough" with "I'm learning and growing every day." Imagine trading "I always fail" for "mistakes are a part of learning, and I can keep going." Imagine letting go of "I'm lazy" and embracing "I'm working on creating healthy habits at my own pace." How different would your day feel? How different would your choices be? How much more confident would you feel to take that next step you've been avoiding? Your invitation. You deserve to live a life where your mind is your ally, not your enemy. You deserve to treat yourself with the same kindness you offer others. You deserve to move forward, not be held back by an outdated, critical narrative. So here's what I want you to do today. Write down your self-talk when you feel stuck. Identify and challenge the harsh, false narratives. Replace them with supportive, truthful statements. And if you're willing, share one of your old phrases and your new supportive phrase in the comments below. Not only will it help you commit to this shift, but it might inspire someone else who is battling the same inner critic. Closing thought self-awareness and self-compassion are powerful tools. They are not about ignoring your flaws, but about seeing yourself clearly so you can grow. Because the way you speak to yourself shapes the way you live your life. Ask yourself today, what would change if I spoke to myself with the same kindness I give to others? And remember, you're allowed to rewrite your story, one thought at a time. Have you ever caught yourself saying, "It's not my fault," or "This is just bad luck," when something doesn't go as planned in your life? Maybe it was a failed project, a friendship that fell apart, or a dream you abandoned halfway. We've all been there. It's human to want to protect ourselves, to find reasons outside of ourselves when life hurts or when things don't go as we hoped. But here's something most people won't tell you. If avoiding responsibility becomes your habit, it's a quiet form of self-sabotage that will keep you stuck in the same cycles you desperately want to escape. Why we avoid responsibility. Let's be honest, it's hard to admit we had a part in our own struggles. Taking responsibility can feel like admitting we've failed, or that we're flawed, or that we're to blame for things we wish had turned out differently. But what if I told you that taking responsibility is not about blame, it's about power? It's about reclaiming your ability to change your life rather than waiting for circumstances or other people to change for you. When we stay in the mindset of, "It's all their fault," or "Life just keeps messing with me," we unknowingly hand over control of our lives to everything and everyone outside of us. How avoidance shows up in real life. Let's talk about how this self-sabotage sneaks into our everyday lives. Blaming others. You find yourself saying, "My boss doesn't support me. That's why I'm stuck," or "My parents never taught me this," or "People keep letting me down." Yes, sometimes others do hurt us, and sometimes circumstances are unfair. But when we stop there, we give away our power to grow and change. Ignoring feedback. Maybe you've received feedback from a colleague, a partner, or even a friend, and your first instinct is, "They just don't get me," or "They're overreacting." This is a protective reaction, but it can prevent you from seeing blind spots you need to work on. Starting projects and quitting midway. You're excited about a new goal or project, but the moment it gets hard or uncomfortable, you find reasons to quit. This wasn't the right time. The market isn't good. People won't support me. Sometimes these reasons are valid, but sometimes they're your mind, protecting you from the discomfort of facing challenges, fear of failure, or fear of not being good enough. My personal story. The blame loop. I remember a time when I launched a small online business and it didn't take off as I hoped. I blamed the algorithm, the timing, the audience, the economy, everything, except looking at what I could have done differently. It wasn't until I sat down and asked myself, what was my role in this, that I realized I hadn't been consistent with my efforts. I hadn't asked for feedback, and I gave up the moment things got uncomfortable. Owning this wasn't easy, but it gave me the clarity and courage to try again this time, with a stronger mindset and better strategy. It's what allowed me to grow rather than remain stuck in bitterness. Out the power of owning your part. Taking responsibility is not about beating yourself up or carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders. It's about acknowledging where you have power. Ask yourself, what role did I play in this outcome? What could I have done differently? What lesson can I take from this moving forward? When you ask these questions, you shift from a mindset of victimhood to one of growth and agency. Practical exercise, reflection, and ownership. Here's a simple but powerful practice. Step 1. Think of a recent disappointment. It could be a project that failed, a conflict with a loved one, or a personal goal you didn't achieve. Step 2. Write down what happened. Describe the situation without judgment, just the facts. Step 3. Ask yourself, what was my role? Here, be honest with yourself. Did you avoid taking action? Did you communicate poorly? Did you give up too soon? Step 4. Identify what you can own. This isn't about finding reasons to blame yourself, but identifying what you can take responsibility for to grow. Step 5. Decide on a small action you can take. This might be setting clearer boundaries, communicating more openly, staying consistent with your efforts, or seeking feedback. Why this practice changes everything. When you take responsibility, you give yourself the gift of power. You stop waiting for other people to change, for circumstances to align perfectly, or for luck to finally show up. You become the creator of your life, not just a passive participant. Imagine what would change if, instead of saying, "Life is unfair," you started asking, "What can I do about this?" Imagine how your relationships would improve if you reflected on your part in conflicts, rather than waiting for others to change first. Imagine how many goals you could achieve if you stopped quitting when things got uncomfortable and instead asked, "How can I learn and adjust?" A thought to reflect on. Avoiding responsibility keeps you safe in the short term, but it keeps you small in the long term. Taking responsibility feels uncomfortable at first, but it opens the door to growth, freedom, and confidence. Your invitation today. Think of one situation in your life right now where you feel stuck or disappointed. Pause and ask yourself, what role have I played in this situation? And what can I own? Write it down. Let this be your starting point to take your power back. A closing reminder. Self-development isn't about pretending you have it all together. It's about having the courage to look at your patterns, acknowledge your role, and choose to grow. Taking responsibility isn't about blame. It's about empowerment. It's about giving yourself the chance to create the life you truly want. You deserve to live a life where you feel in control of your choices, your growth, and your future. Ask yourself today, what can I own so I can move forward with clarity and strength? Because the moment you choose responsibility, you choose freedom. Have you ever wondered why the same patterns keep showing up in your life, no matter how hard you try to change them? Maybe you find yourself getting stuck in the same arguments with your partner, feeling the same frustration at work, or quitting on yourself just when you're getting close to something important. Here's the truth. Real lasting change begins with self-awareness. But let's be clear, recognizing your own warning signs, your own red flags, is not weakness. It's one of the bravest things you can do. It takes courage to look in the mirror and say, "I'm ready to see what's really going on inside me," instead of blaming circumstances or waiting for others to change first. It takes strength to pause and ask, what am I missing about myself that's keeping me stuck? Choosing growth over comfort. It's so tempting to choose comfort to protect your ego in the short term, to avoid the discomfort of acknowledging your role in your struggles. It feels safer to believe that life is unfair, or people just don't get it. But here's what I've learned. Short-term comfort often comes at the cost of long-term growth. When you avoid looking at your patterns, you might feel safe for a moment, but you stay trapped in cycles that limit your potential and happiness. On the other hand, when you choose growth, even when it's uncomfortable, you open doors to creating the life you truly want. Stoic, freedom through honesty. The more honest you are with yourself, the more freedom you give yourself. Because here's the reality: we all have blind spots. We all have patterns that limit us. And we all have the power to change them, but only if we first see them. Being honest with yourself doesn't mean judging yourself or beating yourself up for your mistakes. It means seeing clearly so you can take intentional action. It's about saying, I may have contributed to this situation, and that means I have the power to create a different outcome next time. When you embrace this mindset, you move from feeling like life is happening to you to realizing that you are an active participant in shaping your reality. Self-awareness is a lifelong practice. Here's something many people misunderstand. Self-awareness isn't something you achieve once and check off your list. It's a lifelong practice. Just like you don't go to the gym once and expect to be fit forever, you can't reflect on yourself once and expect to have everything figured out. Life changes, you change, and new challenges appear. The practice of checking in with yourself, noticing your patterns, and asking honest questions needs to continue as you grow. And that's not something to be frustrated about, it's something to embrace. Because every day you choose awareness, you choose growth. Every day you choose growth, you choose a better, freer life. A question to guide you. I want to leave you with a question that can truly change the way you show up for yourself. What do I need to see about myself today so I can become a better version of myself tomorrow? Take a moment to sit with that question. Write it down. Let it guide your choices, your reflections, and your conversations with yourself. On your invitation, if you want to create a life that feels aligned, peaceful, and fulfilling, start with yourself. Don't be afraid to notice your patterns, to recognize your own warning signs, and to get curious about the places you keep getting stuck. This isn't about blame, it's about empowerment. It's about giving yourself the honesty, clarity, and courage you deserve. Because the truth is, you have the power to change your life. And it begins with the bravery to see yourself clearly.